for me to have my face on the screen. So it's a little weird, I'll be honest, but I don't know. Maybe this will make things seem more normal to actually be able to see me explaining this stuff. So right now I'm going to explain how to do grammar page number 1. So just to back up, make sure we all know how to get to this point. I went to our 6th period team. I went to class notebook. And then from here, you would go to your name. So if I'm Anna, I would click on my name, go to grammar, and then, oh, poor Anna's got duplicates because I messed something up. But you only have to do one of each, Anna. So I would click on grammar number 1, and hopefully by the time that this video comes out, this will have fixed itself. But if not, let me know. For this video, though, I'm going to go to another place, the content library. You can't write on anything here, but I'm going to put notes on the page, and you'll be able to see them if you go to the content library, click on grammar number 1. Okay, that's the technology side. Now, what are we actually doing for this content? What are we learning about? So we're going over what is a complex sentence. So say complex sentence with me 3 times. Complex sentence, complex sentence, complex sentence. So a complex sentence is when, well, let's start with the clauses. I'll explain those and then I'll actually tell you what a complex sentence is. So a clause is a piece of a sentence that has a subject and a verb. An independent clause can stand alone as its own sentence. Let's back up a little bit. If you are independent from your parents, let's say, that means that you don't need them to do the same kinds of things that they did for you when you were little, right? Like right now, my daughter is not independent. She needs me to feed her. She needs me to dress her, do everything. But you guys are obviously more independent from the people you live with. So an independent clause then, just like you don't have to, you can be on your own without your family members, without the adults in your life, and you'd be able to survive. Just like you're independent, a clause that's an independent clause can be by itself, and it's a perfectly good sentence. We know it's a perfectly good sentence because it has a subject, it has a noun that is the who or what the sentence is about. It also has a verb, an action. So for example, here it says, my friends like to be part of school activities. Friends and like is what you need to make this an independent clause. This can be its own sentence. Now we're going to go down to dependent clause. Let's say dependent 3 times. Dependent, dependent, dependent. We also say dependent. So dependent is the opposite of independent. If you are dependent on your family, you need them, right? And in some ways, we're all still a little bit dependent on the adults in our lives, right? Like I still depend on my mom and dad to, help me out if I have a problem. But I'm also pretty independent, right? My daughter is super dependent on me, meaning she has to stay with me or my husband in order to be okay. Well, just like she's dependent on us, a dependent clause cannot be on its own. It has to be with another piece of a sentence. So for example, because they like to be noticed still has a subject, they, still has a verb, but you can't just say, because they like to be noticed. If you just say that sentence, people will be like, what are you talking about? The word because here means that it has to be with another sentence to make sense. If the sentence starts with but, because, and, usually those are dependent clauses that have to be with an independent clause to make it a full sentence. That's a lot. I think you guys, a lot of you will be able to hear what sounds right and what sounds wrong to tell what's a dependent clause, what's an independent clause. Okay. So now we're going to talk about hooking these two things together, because that's how you're going to make really interesting, complex sentences, which a lot of you do already when you speak. We're going to see it more in your writing now. So you can hook a dependent clause to an independent clause to form a complete sentence. The new sentence is called a complex sentence. If something is complex, it's hard to understand. It has a lot of parts to it. A complex sentence, same thing. A complex sentence has an independent clause. My friends like to be part of school activities. I could put a period right there. I'd be fine. But to make it a complex sentence, I'm going to add, because they like to be noticed. This dependent clause could not be by itself, but with the independent clause, it makes sense. Okay, so that's the learning piece. Now let's go on to what you'll actually be doing. You're going to draw a line from an independent clause to a dependent clause to combine it into a complex sentence. And I do this by going to draw, then I click on the pencil, I click on the beautiful color I want, I'll go with green, and then I'm going to read the independent clause. I score goals. I'm assuming this person's a soccer player. Oh, I see basketball here. You know I don't know sports. Anyway, I score goals, and we're going to match it with the dependent clause that makes the most sense. So I'm going to kind of go down. When she finishes a painting makes no sense as a full sentence. I score goals because I like the cheers. I'm going to try that. And if there's a better dependent clause for this, I'll see it as I go on. Where did it go? Because I like cheers. There we go. And that's it. I'm just going to draw my line to link these two clauses. Okay, so that's what you guys are going to do for numbers 2 through 9. So now let's move on to the next part. For numbers 10 through 14, you take all these pieces, these phrases, and you put them in the right order, and you're going to type the correct sentence here. So I'm just going to click my text box. Stella, she wants to be team captain because work so hard. I think it should be Stella works so hard. Oh, spelling well would be good. Stella works so hard because she wants to be team captain. You're not going to change any of the words. You're just going to put them in the right order so it makes sense.